Anytime, anywhere. On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire burning in my soul. Anywhere.
Our journeys through education take many routes from our early years to university. Academic Crossroads is here to explore key elements to help equip you along the way. So join us and our special guests as we also discuss the expected and unexpected paths, including all the challenges and triumphs while gathering your academic top tips.
This is Academic Crossroads with your host, Dr. Leanne J. Adeyemi. This is Academic Crossroads.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Academic Crossroads. So we have something a little special for you today, and we are launching our first segment of career insights for you today. And as you can see, we are focusing on tech. Now, the world is changing all around us. It's changing all the time. Things are advancing a lot quicker, seemingly, than it was before. But today we are focusing on career insights and specifically into tech. So if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments throughout the show, and we will definitely be getting to those a bit later. And I'm not here on my own, but I will introduce my guests in just a moment. So please share the link, send it out to anybody that you know is interested in tech or looking to maybe even pivot into tech. Maybe they're looking to just get into their studies, and so they're thinking about, what can I do at university? What can I study for A-levels? And things like that. But we will be touching on all areas over our next few shows. So please share the link out, and you can ask your questions. It will be a time today to ask questions to our very, very experienced guest in tech, and also hearing from someone that's a bit newer and transitioning into the field. So please do share the link out, and I will be back with you in just one moment.
On Fire Radio.
So today we are focusing on career insights and getting into tech. Now, it is actually programming for primaries 2024. So this is a big initiative that is happening here in the UK, and it is all about focusing on getting young children into tech, getting them understanding about coding and things like that. I mean, when I was at school, we had the little bug thing. That was as close to coding, I think, as we got in the early years. So you can just imagine how things have progressed. But it's all about fostering a love for coding in primary school children, and also focusing on why it is important to get them involved and interested even as early as the early years in education. So here with me today, like I mentioned, I do have one guest that is more experienced in the field, and another guest who is pivoting in and getting there. So who should we introduce first? I'll have a think about that. But good evening, Ben. Good evening, Mary. Goodness, Dorette, Steph, Danny, Tendai. Thank you for joining us. To those that haven't commented but are still here with us today, thank you also for joining us. Don't forget, drop your comments and questions as we go in the comment section, and we will get to them. Don't be shy. Ask whatever you want. I'm sure we'll cover it all. So here with me in the studio today, we'll do our early starter. We'll do our early starter first, and it is the one and the only Gloriness.
Hey guys. You are definitely not an early starter. Good evening, guys. I'm so happy to be here.
So thank you for joining us, Glo. And you may have already seen, but it is the one and the only Chinonso.
Hey guys, hope you guys are good, hope you guys are well. Obviously it's Chinonso once again. It's a pleasure to be here, and yeah, God bless this ain't church. Okay, this ain't church. Cool, let me relax here. Let me relax.
So thank you both for joining us here. So we're live from the studio, and we are focusing on career insights and getting into tech. So I guess before we start, let's think about tech, because my idea of tech initially, from like growing up and stuff, has been, like I mentioned, we had the little bugs, and you could program. For those of you that know, right? For those of you that know, and you could push like the little arrows, you had to tell it to stop, all of those kind of things. So that's like my earliest ideas of like tech and what it was. I mean, we had IT suites. That's what they were called, ITC suites.
I remember them. I had a couple of them.
Just about. But
you're young.
I'm quite young, so
young.
She had MacBooks.
She had iPad generation. You get me, man.
But so, Chin, give us a little introduction into tech, so our listeners know what we're thinking and where we're coming from with our content today.
So when it comes down to tech, I tried my best to find different definitions of what tech may be, and I struggled quite a lot. When speaking about tech, essentially tech is using scientific knowledge in order to some degree, create solutions to specific problems. So that's tech overall. And funny enough, I'm getting so many tech messages right now, right? So away from that now, so that's what tech is. But when we speak about tech, I think we need to know what kind of tech that we're speaking about. We're speaking about, let's say, software tech. For example, all of these big companies that we see, they solve a very specific problem using computers, using gained information from the world. And I kind of want to go a bit back, to when things first began, because somebody may ask, when did tech come about? When was the invention of tech? Technology has been there from the very beginning, from the days of the cavemen, in essence. The reason I say that is because people think you need a phone, you need a computer, you need internet for something to be technological or tech. When in reality, the agricultural revolution, they realized that there was new ways for them to actually collect food. That is tech. There's obviously, years ago or back in the days, people used to live in, you know, villages and farms and used to work on all of that stuff. And, you know, then industrialization came. That's on top of that tech. Then we realized, cool, we actually could create these computer machines which will help us calculate things and do different things. That's technology as well.
AOL dial-up.
Remember that? You don't know about dial-up. I know that.
You couldn't use the phone and the internet at the same time.
There was problems with that. You get me? So
Sorry, guys.
yeah, essentially, yeah, tech in itself, just to give you a definition, is using science, using computers, using machinery in order to solve problems, essentially. Yeah.
In order to solve problems, and that is part of the key, isn't it? Because when we actually look at how like tech has developed and progressed over the years, when you think about like education, let's say, we went from like blackboards and chalk to our for some of us, they don't remember.
Imagine.
But blackboards and chalk and everything is dusty in the classroom. Can you imagine like those that had to clean the classrooms and stuff?
I feel for them.
But it went from that to like overhead projectors you had in your little assemblies, the diagrams, and they're switching the song lyrics and stuff. And even those, they were like written on it initially, and then they began to be like printed on and stuff like that. And then now we've got like smart boards.
Yeah.
That's
my
the
gen.
smart.
That's all I know.
Ben even said smart boards. So smart boards in the classrooms and things like that, which has progressed and developed. And one thing that I really think about a lot is the fact that with a PhD, right, there was a time when there were no computers.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine
That
writing.
just sounds so crazy.
There was a time. Do you know how many? Imagine writing 100,000 words. You have to handwrite it, send it to a typewriter to type it up, and then they'll send it back to you. And can you imagine if there's a mistake on the front page?
That is so crazy.
Bro, and there are some people that are complaining about 3,000 words.
I just can't believe that, to be honest. That's mad.
Yeah. No.
Like 80,000 words handwritten.
Yeah.
No. No, thank you.
Imagine that. Imagine that.
I'm telling you. And then, so that's more like the education side of things, right? But then when we think about like our day to day, you know, we used to really use like cash systems, and it was all money, checkbooks even. You remember a checkbook?
No, not a checkbook. I'm not that young.
Checkbooks. I'm playing. Checkbooks. So even like now, Chin, you were talking about you're getting messages, but even you can pay with your watch now, right?
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
It's just, you know, those stories that you get told by your parents when they used to say, when they wanted to go somewhere to meet up with a friend, the day before, you have to assign a very specific date, a very specific time.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell the time except for using a manual watch. There's no way to let someone know I'm running late. So I know certain people will genuinely struggle.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Yeah. So it's just crazy, just the advancement in tech and how things have actually just turned out, basically.
Honestly, and just seeing how things have progressed, like, and all of those things and the way that they're like used in different fields as well. So you have for those of us that are mamas and and we've been through that process. There was that transition from like even like pregnancy notes going from being like this book that you had to carry around everywhere with you, the red book, and it had all the notes in it, to now everything's like digital. So you just go to your appointment, they've got the stuff on there, you don't have to bring anything, you just upload some stuff. And then that's it. You don't have to bring everything with you all the time now. And so the progression has gone far. And even those of you that you're living in your house, e-billing. You get your bills straight to your email. You can log on to portals now. Like it's not that you've got like tons of papers that you're having to keep over the years, just in case in a year's time, if they get your bill wrong, then you need evidence.
That's so crazy.
Can you imagine if you were trying to query your bill?
Imagine that.
So all of these things is just to say that there is tech in absolutely everything, and there is tech in a variety of things. And so thank you all for joining us. Tendai is actually PhD without a computer. Can you imagine? But we will be moving swiftly on, and we will be back in just a moment. So if you haven't yet, please do share the link out, and we will be back with you.
Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire burning in my soul. Fire, fire, fire. Fire burning in my soul. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
This is Academic Crossroads. On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere. On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anytime, anywhere.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire, fire, fire.
On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anytime, anywhere.
Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere.
Da da ba da 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 ba da. If it wasn't you that's on my side, this life will finish me. Oh. I see the wonders of your hand. It's only you that's keeping me. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, plenty, plenty, plenty. Plenty, plenty blessing for me. Many, many, many. Many reasons to say I'm grateful. And I love you. And I don't take it for granted. So I just want to say that I love you. I really love you, Lord. Oh. Say that I need you. I really need you, God. Oh yeah, plenty, plenty, plenty. Plenty, plenty blessing for me. Many, many, many. Many reasons to say I'm grateful. And I love you. And I don't take it for granted. So I just want to say that I love you. I really love you, Lord. Say that I need you. I really need you, God.
On Fire Radio. anytime, anywhere.
Hey, what's up, Sonny?
Can you tell us the gospel again?
Of course I can. All right, you guys take a seat.
But this time, start all the way from the beginning.
All right, I'll start all the way at the beginning, just for you. At Genesis. You ready? Okay. God created man and gave him his commandment. Sat him in his garden with everything he planted. Said, this is all yours, son. Want it, you can have it. All except for this one, cause that one's just for daddy. The devil steps up in it right away with his deception. Said you can be a god if you just taste it. It's amazing, you won't die, God's alive. Throwing shade in his direction. That small seed of doubt forms a change in his perception. See, if he had nothing, he'd appreciate that one thing. God gave him everything, but he's focused on that one tree. Sin is here, in his fear, he covered up and hid. He covered up in leaves, God covered him with skins. Hold that thought, let's fast forward to Abel and Cain. Two brothers in the same field, playing they lanes. See, Cain tended the ground, Abel tended the sheep. Both made an offer to God, but Cain's fell incomplete. Now put a pin in that, let's hit the Passover down in Egypt. When God hears the cries of them beating down his people. Israel's enslaved, Pharaoh saying they ain't leaving. Moses tells him God said it, but he still ain't wanna free him. So God tells Moses, here's the plan, pay attention. Tell my people, they gon' need a land without a blemish. One day you gon' get it, but for now, you just kill it, take it home, smear its blood on the doorpost of the entrance. See, Israel's my firstborn, and Israel's been taken. If he don't let my son go, his son ain't gon' make it. The penalty is death, and I'm coming for the payment. Those covered in that blood will be the only ones escaping. Now let's go back to Abraham, mobbing with his son Isaac. Faith isn't faith until it's tested, so God tries him. Said, I know how much you love your son, go and sacrifice him. So Abe walks him up the mountain, straps him down and ties him. He doesn't really understand it, but he has faith. He know that God's good, so it's commanded he's grabbing his blade. As he goes to stab him, the Lord yells, wait! He looks over, and God sent the lamb in his place. Let's take a quick pause now before we get to Jesus. Cause none of this will click until you see just why we need him. The word of God says the wages for sin is death. So if sin is how you work, then death should be the check. There can be no forgiveness without the shedding of blood. The penalty must be paid if God is a righteous judge. We say just let it slide, but if someone killed your cousin, would you call that judge righteous if his killer goes unpunished? Or would you call him crooked? And we know the Lord ain't that. So there's a death penalty, and someone has to pay that. The moment that you sin, your life has been indebted, and his mercy is the only reason he ain't yet collected. So that's why they would sacrifice lambs in their places, but it didn't clear the debt, it was just a partial payment. Now we gon' take a recap and see the Lord working. Nothing was an accident, it all has a purpose. Now back to the beginning at the fall. Man sins, tries to fix it on his own. God covers him with skins, but it never says what animal he's getting it from. All we know is to cover man, he shed innocent blood. Now remember Cain and Abel? Cain's offer was rejected. You ever wonder why Abel's offer was accepted? All I know is Cain offered the work of his hands. Abel tended the sheep, so he must have offered a lamb. Now look at Abraham and Isaac, are you seeing it now? A ram in the bush sent to take the place of his child. Cause Abraham had faith enough to give up his son. God would later do the same so that forgiveness would come. Back to the Passover, oh man, here we go with that lamb again. The innocent blood of a lamb is covering man again. You don't see the pattern or get what it means? Then it all becomes clear when Jesus steps on the scene. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and end. I am the Lamb without blemish, sacrifice for your sin. The Lamb of God without sin, little children understand. You can't do it on your own, it is me who covers man. I'm the one who took your place.
On Fire Radio. This is Academic Crossroads.
Hello and welcome back to Academic Crossroads, career insights where we are focusing on getting into tech. So we focused a little bit and we've seen the development and the progression of tech over time with my wonderful guest here in the studio.
She'll talk about me.
Nah, she's still got, wait, use the camera on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now it's when you add. So we can make it work. We can make it work.
And Gloriness. So, I mean, you guys are you're in tech.
Yeah.
You know, I think the things that I've maybe touched on, which more so use tech, has been like SPSS, statistics-based stuff. Gloriness, you're looking like
Because
it's a...
SPSS is the bane of my existence.
What is SPS? PES? What does that mean?
If you have to do... Go on, Glo, actually. Let's see how...
So SPSS is like a statistical, and it's like another version of R or Python for you tech head, but it helps you to analyze data. So you can do different kinds of data. So you can do a mixed ANOVA, which will probably look at different variables and compare them into one. So yeah, it's very difficult to actually get acquired to, especially when you can't transfer it into the world of tech, which we'll talk about later.
But if you need help with SPSS, there's an amazing book. Maybe we'll touch on a stats session at another point in time. But like with tech and everything, like there's loads of different. So we've spoken about like the variety of like different areas and stuff like that. But you know, tech with what tech is. So you mentioned about it being like actually science and solving problems, right?
Correct, yeah.
So there must be so many skills that are like required or transferable or beneficial within the area, within the field. Cool,
yeah. So I think one of the things I've seen with tech, when it comes down to it, ultimately, it does work a lot on your problem solving. And it's something I was somewhere recently on Wednesday, I spoke out of school, speaking about just tech, skills needed to actually get into and the benefits you can actually get from going into tech. And a big benefit is problem solving. Why? Because essentially tech is a bunch of tools. There are a bunch of things, and essentially what they tell you to do, we have a problem. We need you to provide a solution. We're giving you this programming language, they're giving you this thing, and you're just there with your laptop or this programming language trying to find out, how do I actually make this thing work? So, you know, you have to first and foremost think about the solution, process the solution. On top of that, go on Google, go on the internet, try to find out, okay, I want to create this kind of application or this kind of software. Now, when you actually do it properly, you know, for the projects you're working on, you automatically begin to start working on, you know, it helps you in your life, because now you get given a task at church, for example, or your parents give you something to do. You go through the same process of first research, first ensuring that I actually make it work. And once you've made it work, Q&A, which essentially is, can I break this thing? And if I don't break this thing, that means this thing's resilient, which means it's a job well done kind of thing.
Breaking this thing, resilience.
Resilient.
You know what
No, because, okay, for example, this
agile.
is a thing. No. You know, it's a thing that you see with a lot of tech work. So, for example, I right now can literally recreate the Uber application, right? And it can work very well, but for its very specific use case. But then let's say, for example, somebody now, let's say, tries to apply for a cab, now stops it and tries to apply for a cab again. Sometimes, you know, you end up breaking code and it's buggy. And this is why tech teams are huge, because, you know, it can work perfectly for one instance, but it has to work all the time because money is involved. And so that's all the whole process of Q&A. When you create something in tech, you need to genuinely break it, because once you release it into the wild, users are not nice. They're not going to say, hey, I use your app and I love it. But there's
they want to quickly open the app and close it so the price doesn't go up.
Exactly. So imagine now you order Uber and then £20, and then all of a sudden it's now saying £200 on their account. They'll go mad. And then they go on Twitter. They now start shaming your company and stuff.
Game over.
Exactly. So I think one of the things that does help you, it helps you QA your work. Meaning, once you do something, it makes you go over it, go over it, and stuff. So essentially, that's it. And
just to rewind a little bit, QA meaning quality assure.
Quality assurance.
So making that the
All right,
Yeah.
making
doctor.
sure. Don't worry.
No,
I
do you know
love
what
it.
it is? Okay. See, I try to use words that people don't understand, so then the live comments will start saying Chin, QA, whoa, you're so smart. But doctor's obviously killing my vibe, innit? So it's
We're all
Exactly.
out here. If you have worked on any tech project or you've worked in agile and things like that, then QA is something that
she's
we
loving the
would
buzzwords,
definitely
innit?
We're loving the buzzwords.
Come on.
But also, Chin, you did actually mention language. Now, Glow, this is something that me and you spoke about very recently.
Yes.
Because when you say language in tech,
Yeah.
you are not talking about Spanish.
Yeah.
You're not talking about German. You're not talking about English. What are you talking about?
We're talking about coding languages. And I was introduced to my first coding language end of last year, which was R.
Hey,
So R is like a transition from SPSS
chai.
into the big world of actual coded languages. And I didn't know there was more than one. So I'm currently learning SQL, which is like, for me, it's really great because I think it's a nice way to transition into actually coding. But there's plenty. I mean, Chin, you're a Python tycoon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so context, because we're obviously this is a church page. When they hear Python, people are thinking, what do you mean Python?
They're thinking break and
They're
go.
thinking break and go. And any snake spirit. So
Snake means-
snake is Python. So essentially, for those who don't know, when we speak of as my sister Glow did say, programming languages now, computers speak different languages than we speak, right? And we need to be able to communicate with them and tell them and give them instructions on what to do. Now, languages are very specialized. For example, you spoke of SQL.
Yes.
Let's say everyone in an organization, all your information is on a database, but you need to query, and query mean you need to get specific information from that database itself. So there's languages that fit very specific use cases. For example, let's use a tennis club. From the table of a tennis club, get all the members whose name begins with B, for example, and you know that'll be structured in some nice query way. Now there's general programming languages like Python. So for those who don't know, it is not juju, it's not evil, right? Well, in this context at least, right?
So he says,
in this context at least, right? So essentially it's a general purpose programming language, easy to learn. So when people come to me saying that they want to learn how to code, I tell them, point them towards Python. Why? Because it's more human. It's a very human language. And to kind of, to speak on the differences, there's something called assembly or machine code, which is ones and zeros. So imagine now I told you, Glow, cool, code this. I know you're seeing is ones and zeros. She'll be confused. But then the developers who create the language realize, cool, let's not make this thing confusing.
Yeah.
Let's make it user friendly. You know, so yeah, that's one of the languages. But I'm into actually JavaScript. And I could go into that, but if I start, I don't think I'll stop.
I think we'll have to save that, Chin.
As well.
We'll have
Cool,
to
cool,
save
cool.
that for a
You know,
later
if you
date.
see me on chair, you know those people who put their hand up, like, I'm busy putting my hand up, like, miss. I want to talk, but as well.
We'll save it for a
We'll save
later
it.
date
Alright,
for the
cool.
stuff we've got coming out in the summer.
Hey, I'm excited.
We'll leave it
already.
until then. But yeah, so we've spoken about problem solving. What other skills have, and Glow, I guess maybe looking at it from like a more introductory perspective as well. Like, what kind of skills have you found that, oh, I'll need to develop this, or actually I already have this and this works really well in like the world of tech and coding?
So for those that don't know, I'm currently a third year student doing my neuroscience degree. And
Neuroscience.
Neuro
degree.
what? That
Yeah.
sounds
Neuro.
smart.
I mean, Ben said, I'm smelling the Mercedes with this intelligence.
Yeah.
what can I say?
Hey, come on. All these compliments.
Yeah. So with a neuroscience degree, it's a lot of problem solving. So you have this theory, let's say, so I want to understand why people who are bilingual can handle stress better than those who are monolingual. There's a fundamental theory with that. So you need to try and test it to see if it's actually true. So you build a hypothesis, but you can't create a theory without having information backing it. So when Chin was talking about that QA process, you have to apply that in neuroscience as well, because neuroscience is very logical.
Yeah.
Science is evolving, but it's very black and white. If there's in-betweens, it will end up going to a black or white side. So I think with neuroscience, it helped with the problem solving and the analytical thinking. You can't say, the brain, the executive functioning helps with memory. Okay, how? Or the executive functioning helps with me planning. How? You need to think about who, what, where, when, how, why, and it needs to be tried and tested. So with neuroscience, that helped my transition a little bit.
Makes sense.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, That sounds, and for those of you that maybe you are doing your dissertation, let's say now, or you've done your dissertation, your final year project, like all of those types of skills that you're having to use in terms of research as well. So you're having to find your initial research question, you're having to do all of that where you're going to other journals, you're looking at what people have done before, finding the gaps in the literature, you're analyzing data, you're collecting data, then analyzing data. So all of these skills are still seemingly so relevant within tech as well anyway.
They are. And sorry, but with tech, when I saw it going into that world, I thought, what on earth? Like, what skills do I have that I can transition into this field? But like Chin said, you're solving a problem, and on a day-to-day basis, you have to really bring it down to like booking a taxi. It went from, hey, taxi, to I can do it on my phone. You have to solve a problem. So if you've developed problem-solving skills in everywhere in your life, you'll be able to fine-tune that to tech.
Exactly, yeah. You know, that was my example. Oh. Yeah, joking, I'm playing. Because, yeah, that's what it is, simply. Most of these big tech companies, essentially, all it actually is problem-solving. We have a problem. How can you make this solution more efficient? As you use the Uber example. Before we used to stand outside in the cold and in the rain. Do you get me? Waving your hand out.
Waving our hand out to the
waving them
side.
down. Like, you know, taxi man, I'm here kind of thing.
And they will even pass you.
They'll pass you and then they have to come back. So cool. All of a sudden, on my phone, I have somewhere I want to go. Open my phone, tap, and I'm already there. So it's that sense of efficiency, that sense of and a very important word, I think, you know, that encompasses what tech is about is this word called automation.
Yes.
Making things much more simpler. For example, I don't have an example at the moment, it's coming, right? But the Uber example is an example. Making things much more easier.
Is something like that, could you say something like that is like, now let's say like on some of these websites that you have to order things online, instead of ordering, they're doing like subscribe and save.
Exactly.
So it's just, you can just do like click it once to order it, and then it will come to you monthly or bi-monthly or something like that.
Yep.
Perfect example of automation. Because why? Instead of going through the convoluted process of jumping online, finding out a very specific thing to buy and doing it again next week, is a subscription. The days of Blockbuster were over, and you probably may not. Oh, you know, okay, cool. So, you know the bit about it, right?
Blockbuster. Wow,
right?
that was like a Friday night. We're going to get a movie. You get your popcorn and your snacks all from the shop, and then you just hope that you don't return it late.
Exactly that. But cool. Netflix realized, because they actually used to run the same kind of model. But then they realized, okay, cool. Many people kept on, you know, let's say, going to Blockbuster, returning things late. So they thought of an idea. There was a problem. They found a solution. They realized the world is going towards internet. And for a couple of years, and that's the problem about tech as well. A lot of the time, you might have an amazing idea, but the world hasn't really caught up yet, right? So anyway, let me not get into that. So with the whole Netflix example, they now began to host videos on servers. And now we see that this world is populated with Netflix users, and Blockbuster actually went out of business. Why? Because that whole Friday night experience, they thought we can automate it, we can make it better, we can use the technology that we have, add some, you know, different things that we know, and just make it much more easier. So yeah.
So you can just like pick the movie from your living room, and also just go to a big convenience store and get your snacks rather than paying £5.
Exactly, literally that. Exactly.
Oh, okay. So coding and the world of tech seems to need a lot of skills that are transferable from other areas. So for those of you that are thinking about transitioning into tech, you may actually already hold and have a lot of those skills. You may do a lot of those skills in the jobs that you're actually doing from day to day. And even for those of you that are at uni or at school, you know, there are a lot of skills that you are already doing or you're already developing as well that actually transition quite well into the world of tech. So you don't necessarily have to have the know-how of the ones and the zeros as you put it, Chin. But actually there is a world out there when it comes to tech.
Exactly.
And so just moving on into actually like getting into tech and stuff. So Glow, I think let's actually, Chin, let's start your journey into tech. What was that like? What has that
Interesting.
been like, and like where is it at now, and what are your aspirations?
Nice. So my journey into tech was just, I was a 16-year-old boy, didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. I left my secondary school and didn't really get the best GCSEs, unfortunately. But I did realize I had a passion for computers. I just loved computers. I watched a movie called The Social Network, and in essence is the story of how Facebook was built by Mark Zuckerberg and some of his friends. I looked at that and I said, wow, that is amazing. This is actually me. I want to do this thing in future where I build this app and, you know, become one great billionaire kind of thing. Amen. Hey. I didn't see the comment. No one in they're jealous because they're jealous. They're jealous. That's why
With
as
a
well.
fire emoji.
As well. You know, jealousy don't look good on people, you know. So, but cool. Essentially, I realized, okay, cool. This is the kind of person I want to be. So I went through the traditional route of going through college, right? Studied computing in college, went to university, studied computer science. And that's one thing I definitely wanted to say. That you don't really have to study computer science to get into tech anymore. Those days are gone. Even personally, if I went back, I wouldn't have studied that. I would have probably did an apprenticeship and gone through that route. Why? Because I'm earning money whilst I'm learning on the job. And on top of that, there's no debt, right? So now, as it stands now, I got my first job at Sainsbury's, working on websites and mobile applications, so developing them. And it's been around 4.5 years. It's been interesting, I'll say, because tech is a place where if you want to be complacent, you won't necessarily survive, because technologies are always being created. Different things are always being brought to the forefront of, you know, the tech scene. So you have to be adaptable. This year is AI. 2-3 years ago, it was blockchain and Web3. A couple years before that, you know, there was a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So where I am right now, I'm currently at a mid/senior role. And yeah, things are looking decent. The market obviously is a bit crazy right now, but that is the nature of tech. But you always have to keep on evolving, I'll say. But
it's so interesting to see that actually you like when you said Sainsbury's, genuinely, I thought, oh,
yeah,
is that what happened after
At the till?
Wait, you did? Yeah,
exactly.
like genuinely, that's what I thought. And so, but it just goes to show that actually in all of these organizations, like just because maybe you're a customer in one way, there's always stuff happening in the background, and there's always other roles within that company or within that brand as well that actually you can go into, and tech is one of them. Yeah,
because the problem is when we think tech, we think FANG. For those who don't know, we think Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. That's like an acronym for those big tech companies. When in reality, your Sainsbury's has a tech department. Tesco has a tech department.
Even your Audi.
Your Audi has a tech department. Why? Because there's an interesting statistic I saw during the lockdown period. I think Primark don't have an online presence and don't have online stores.
Yeah.
So they suffered so badly because they didn't have tech. Now, you know, the reason why the world is moving towards tech, because that's where everything is. That's the best way to reach people, and people always want convenience, and tech is in nature automated convenience. So essentially, you know, that's why there's a lot of tech jobs, because if you wanted to, let's say, work in a science lab, you have to go for those science places. In tech, every single company has a tech department offering jobs.
Okay, so you've like transitioned across Chin, but that's interesting to know as well, like the fact that you brought up apprenticeships as well. We've done a few shows as well here discussing apprenticeships, so if you'd like to find out more, go back. Go back.
It's all there.
But yeah, so the idea that actually apprenticeships and things like that are not off the cards, and if maybe you are working in a specific area as well, because we know learning never stops. Learning is across the lifespan.
That's right.
So if you are working in a particular field, then there are plenty of options out there of how you can transition into tech. But we will be getting into that next week. So make sure you join us next week for that. But Gloriness, your sort of introductory into the tech world, obviously you're coming from a neuroscience sort of stance and perspective on it, and how you're going to go about looking into getting into it. So what were some of the questions that you actually initially had when you were thinking about it? Now that you've stepped into it a bit more as well, like what are some of the things that have thrown up, and any of our listeners as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask and we will get them answered today.
Yeah, so one of the questions I actually had, and I'll point that to you, Chin, was before I started getting into tech, do you need to code to be able to have a career in tech?
Good question. This is something I really tackled with some of the people I spoke to this week. You don't. Reason I say you don't is because let's say YouTube, you log onto YouTube, you see that there's a whole UI, there's design, there's different things, there's icons and stuff.
Yeah.
That's all part of tech. But then the thing is, there's different roles such as UI designers, where your whole job is to design how an application looks like. There's UX designers. Let's say, for example, you wanted to order an Uber application. That's the easiest one to use, right? You're trying to order the application, then after it's going to one page, then it's going to another page that has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. Users get frustrated. That's a UX designer. So you don't need to know how to code. I work with a lot of people who've never written code in their life, and they're doing well. Let me give you another example. Let's say we got given an app to create a streaming service for MarpeAssembly. There's going to be software engineers who actually write the code. There's going to be somebody who won't touch code. They just design how it looks. There's going to be somebody that might be speaking to the shareholders or the trustees and the users about what they actually want. They don't get into code as well. They're product managers as well. There's other people who, all they do is try to break the application. They're QA designers, and that's just in a typical tech team. So that's a myth that we want to destroy. I was going to say by fire, but we're not praying there. We want to destroy it. You don't need to learn how to code to get into tech. Although it will be nice to know how to code if you're trying to get into tech. Yeah,
that was one of my problems. So when I first started, I was like, I need to code. And it was lovely learning how to code. But when I realized there are so many other roles available, it made me realize it's a good skill to have, but it's not necessary. You could be a project manager for a big tech firm. You might have no idea how they're writing their code.
Exactly that.
But as long as you have the skills, and this is why I really stress on having the good transferable skills from wherever you've come from. So I'm coming from neuroscience. Problem solving is a good skill. It's about the foundation you bring to tech. So that's me. Yeah.
Okay. So is that one of like that was your main thing that you were thinking, like, how can I get into this if I don't know code?
Yes, because it's a very male dominated field.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thank God for my lecturer that I had. He was a data science lecturer, and he showed that there are a lot of women who are in, let's say, psychology or neuroscience that actually don't know that they can use their skills in tech.
Exactly that, yeah.
There's a massive, a very big gap. And I think that narrative needs to be broken. Women can get into tech, but you don't need to sit at a computer to get into tech.
Exactly.
Definitely. And did you feel that was like did that actually like maybe make you think twice about actually going into tech?
Certainly, because first of all, what is a neuroscience student thinking about doing tech? That doesn't make any sense at all. When I told my mum I'm doing tech, she looked at me and went, huh?
So what do you mean?
What is tech?
What correlation? Like, what's the correlation?
She's like, what is tech? So that did make me double think, but I think it's very important to have mentors around you as well to help you break that narrative and break that transition and be bold. Ask questions. It's okay. You're never going to look stupid for asking a question. Sometimes I still Google a code saying, I've got this error. How do I resolve it? And it's over there on Google. Literally the tech world are smart people who know how to use Google well.
I need to talk on that. I need to talk on that because, now you're busy exposed. Because my parents, when I go home, they think I'm a smart guy. When I bring out my laptop, when they're giving out chores, all I have to do is bring out my laptop and say, Mom, I'm coding. Do you get me? But essentially, what you're actually saying is so true. Every single day, whether you're a junior developer, you're a senior developer, you're a staff developer, which is a principal high-up developer, Google is your best friend. Why? Because we're building a product. People have actually traveled the road that you've walked on, right? So essentially, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we support each other. Exactly. There's a term called open source. I'm not sure you've heard of that before, yeah. It is as well. So open source essentially is, think of it like this: software that people have built already, right? And it's free, it's available for everyone to use. I'm trying to think of a relevant example. But essentially now what it is that, our work is based on other people's work. Our research is based on what people have researched. Our code is based on the code written by others. So don't be afraid. If you let's say, find it hard, to write code by yourself, Google is not just your best friend. I've been doing this for 4 and a bit. It is my best friend as well. So yeah, you're right with that one.
Gloriness, I think Mom's finding it funny, funny in the comments. And Colin has said Stack Overflow.
That's it.
I think that's gonna have gone over loads of people's heads. What is that?
Stack Overflow, yeah. You see,
This sounds deeper.
it's a testimony. If not for that person, place, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Wow.
Think of it like this, yeah. That's what is a Q&A. Think of Yahoo Answers back in the day. So let's say you have a question, this code does not run, or how do I get A to work? Then people will post their code and they'll have discussions over it. So imagine you're doing your job, you're stuck, and instead of you to go message that angry boss, you go online and you search and it has the answer. So a test. Any developer, just if you see someone who claims they're in tech or they code, ask them what is Stack Overflow. If they can't give you an answer, they're out. Write that one down. Write that one down. This one I'm giving it to you guys for free.
Wow.
This one, there's no offering for this one. I'm giving it for free.
Baseline test.
Exactly. What is Stack Overflow? If they can't answer, they're fraud.
But communities like that are so important, I think,
100%.
in general. And like in research, there's one called ResearchGate as well, where you can do the same thing. You ask questions, and then people just give their answers. And also as well, if you're a mum,
Yeah.
then there are plenty. I'm sure you and I both know there are plenty of them as well. But definitely having like those communities, having the opportunity as well to actually ask questions. And sometimes someone's already asked your question, so there's loads of answers already. Is that I'm assuming it's the same?
Yeah, that's literally it, because people are doing similar work. They already have answers, and if you're privileged enough, they actually give a form of explanation of what they've done. So even if they may have not experienced the same problem you've experienced, the logic behind what they've done and the way they worked it out will give you inspiration to work out your problem. So as you did say, it's a very communal based thing, and developers love developers. I've never really worked at a place where I found the other developers annoying, because we tend to enjoy what we're doing, and let's work 9 to 5, let's all smile, let's all go home. So there's that working environment community that we get.
Is it really 9 to 5, Chin?
Maybe
Maybe we'll get to that next.
I want to see my
get to
boss
that
is
next
watching.
week.
Let me.
And Glow, what else? What other things did you, or other questions did you have, or do you have, as well as you're like starting out and just going into this as like a new area?
One other question I did have, and Chin, I'll pose it to you because we actually spoke about this before, was is it really important to have a mentor when breaking into tech?
Okay.
That was one of my questions.
Interesting. How do I answer that question? There's only one mentor you should have in your life.
And his name is
It's Jesus. Cool. So to answer your question seriously now, right? Mentors are very important. You can actually do many things without mentors, right? But I'm going to use this opportunity to shout out someone that actually impacted my life quite powerfully. So Rohan had an event, right? I went to support it because this guy goes to my church. So yeah, let me go. And, when you're supporting your boy, he's doing something in church. I found one of the key speakers who worked at Spotify at the time. And I realized I want to be in that position. Had a conversation through LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, I'll say, is a very powerful source because many people don't mind sharing experiences or actually bringing you along as well. So message this person on LinkedIn. And when I say by the grace of God, my career changed. The instant I met him and I actually spoke to him, my mindset shifted, my pay shifted, my understanding of the industry shifted. What should have taken me 5-6 years, things I should be touching now, I learned, let's say, when I was first a junior. So I say mentors are very important first in your career. Now, on your journey towards getting into tech, mentors matter. Why? Because you've been there when you're trying to, you don't know where to start. Tech is quite broad.
Very.
So you don't know what you want to do. All you know is that you want to get into tech. You have a mentor who understands what tech is. They'll tell you, okay, I see you have these passions. You can do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
And if you want to do A, B, C, and D, you should do E, F, G. And I'm not good at English, but you get what I'm saying. So mentors are very, very. I went to school. You get me? I remember the language. The language I know is JavaScript, not English. So, but in essence, yeah, mentors are very important because something that'll take you 10 years, in a year, you're already cracking it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Emmanuel has also said, tell them about GitHub.
GitHub. Okay, so yeah, this guy, you know what you're
I feel
talking
like
about.
I've heard this recently. The past few weeks at work, I've heard this.
So
GitHub
explain
thing.
to us, what do you think GitHub is?
I've got absolutely no idea.
So she's out then. She's out then. Cool. So essentially, GitHub is a repository, right? That sounds smart, and a repository is an acumen.
Sounds like the British Library or
something.
something.
As well. But essentially, you said it so perfectly. It essentially is a library or repository of people's different projects and code. For example, some applications I've created, I put them on GitHub for people to see, people to critique, and also when I want to show off certain projects, a lot of open source work is on GitHub as well. Why that's very important is because let's say you want to work on an application, you get confused. How do I work on this application? Whilst on GitHub, you'll be able to find out or find someone who's actually worked on the application, who's willing to give out their code for free for you to look at and gain inspiration from. So yeah, GitHub, yeah.
GitHub.
It's proper, yeah.
So if you don't know
GitHub.
about, if I hear people talking about tech and I'll ask them about GitHub and they don't know,
Stack
and I'll ask
Overflow.
them about Stack Overflow.
Tell them they're out.
They're out. So if your manager doesn't know,
if you're interviewing and you ask your manager, okay, what's your Git? How do you use Git in your organization?
What code have you put on GitHub?
What code?
And they say,
you know that they're there to take your details. They're not a real job. That's it. It's real, man.
But we have project managers, right? So they might not need to know that information, yeah?
Okay. It's all.
So it's all possible.
1-0, Dr. 1-0. You want that one.
Even Minister has said that managers don't know these things.
Oh, that's why.
So,
this is okay. So I honest this one because this is what I do. Yeah, interviews. I was thinking of it today. Interviews. I love to flex sometimes. So when I ask them a question and they don't know, I see that as weakness. Oh, you don't know it. Then I say, okay, that's what I'm gonna hit. That's what
With your pay.
I'm gonna hit with everything. I'm gonna say, okay. Oh, so you don't. Okay, me. This is what I. In fact, I'll call my old workplace. When it came to GitHub, I was the specialist. I was the chief. In fact, there's a CEO, there's the chief analyst of GitHub. It was me. Do you get me? But yeah, that's something worth knowing. You're gonna actually have interviews where they don't know what they're talking about, or there's certain gaps that might be missing.
Chin, hold it.
This
We're
one,
gonna
it's
go
for my
there
course.
next week.
This is what I'm saving it. Yeah,
it's available next week.
Next week. So,
We will be going there next week. But indeed. And so Glo, do you have any more questions, I guess, for Chin as you're stepping into the arena?
Yes. Last question, but I think because we've spoken about it, I'll put it more to those who might not know. What is the importance of networking when breaking into tech?
Interesting. These are one of my notes. I don't know how to answer this one. I'm playing. Okay. Importance of networking. I would say 1,000,000% important. The grammar wasn't good, but it's very, very important. Why I say that is because recently I messaged somebody on LinkedIn. They connected with me. I connected back. I just said, hey, thanks for the connection. By the way, do you have any roles or opportunities at your place? All of a sudden, I'm in the interview process, right? And I realized, trust me, sometimes that your 10, 20, 30, 50, 100K is one message away. That's from pay and salary and your career.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to, let's say, learning how to code, there's people who are, they want to put on their CV that I mentored somebody. As I'm aiming for senior developer roles, that right now, you don't understand. I'm telling people that I led a talk show speaking about tech with talking to hundreds of people. So guys, let's share this so there's 100 people watching. You get me? I'm going to gloat about this. You get me? Why? Put on my CV, make it look nice.
Exactly.
So essentially, people want to mentor. Because first, you only become a master of something once you know how to teach it properly. On top of that, you can put that on your CV. Networking will take you to places that you never really even knew existed.
Yeah.
So I'll say definitely network. And I want to quickly ask you a question. How's networking helps you in your career with tech as well?
It has helped me immensely. So breaking into tech, I had no idea. Like, I really do thank God for my lecturer, because I was like, sir, I have no idea what I'm doing and my laptop is crashing. What do I do? And one thing I really took was that you have to be malleable to actually grow. If you're very hard and stuck in your ways, you actually won't grow. So I was okay being the dumb one in the class, because I knew that if I stayed an extra half an hour with my lecturer, he was willing to teach me, and he actually presented certain opportunities. They weren't for me, but certain opportunities to come back and work with him for a year. And if I wanted a grad job with him, I can go and get a grad job with him because I made myself malleable. I went to a tech event by myself. It was a woman in tech event, and I met so many amazing people, but I wouldn't have known that was a thing, pardon me, unless I had networked. And networking could be something as simple as set up your LinkedIn profile, guys.
100%.
Please
100%.
update it. You're no longer at KFC working that part-time job. You now have a full-time job. So update your LinkedIn. And as Chin said, your opportunity can honestly be just one message away.
That's right, yeah.
Literally. And I'm looking at the time, guys. I'm looking at the time. So unfortunately, we are gonna have to end the conversation there. But it's just for today, right? Because we're gonna be back.
I nearly cried,
We're gonna be back next week. We are going to be back next week. Oh, but we do have one question from Minister. Does tech stop at coding, or is there more to it?
Interesting. I want to sound inspirational and say tech doesn't stop at coding. That's where it starts.
Whoa.
But that'll be a lie. That's inaccurate. You get me? But
I thought you were just dropping. You were dropping pearls.
it sounds like inspiration. You know what? In fact, we'll make it work. We'll add context to it, make it work, right? But essentially, tech doesn't stop at coding. Sorry. There's many facets of coding. Tech is very multi-dimensional. There's some people is not, as we gave the examples, it's QA. Some people is just breaking this app. Let's break it. So your tech role could simply be use the application and see the faults in it. Some other people's tech role might necessarily be speaking to shareholders and communicating between development teams and, the shareholders. Other people's tech journey / tech story is simply encouraging the team, so Scrum Masters, making sure that the team is working efficiently. So, tech doesn't stop at coding, and unfortunately, it doesn't start at coding because that would have been a nice quote. But yeah, there's a lot to tech, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, and from what you mentioned earlier, you also mentioned about like the product designers, product managers.
Yeah.
You have like user researchers as well.
right.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
User researchers. You also have policy people.
Okay.
Policy people working there as well.
They're the people I don't like. The regulators and stuff, innit? Yeah.
They do too
And
much.
like researchers as well. So there are within the team that is working on maybe like a tech-based project. There are so many different roles. And people that are necessary as well in order for that product or for that particular project to actually be successful and actually produce the thing that is, or the solution that is hoping to be produced at the end of it as well.
Yeah,
so
correct.
There are so many different roles in tech, in coding, and so I'm sure, but we're gonna get into it next week, right?
100%. Yeah.
So let me
Next
just
week
hold.
is hot.
Let me
Next week is
hold
hot.
it for
On
now.
fire.
On fire.
We'll hold it for
Tech
now. But
on
there
fire,
are
you know.
so many roles, and next week we will be going into looking at the different types of roles, but we won't just stop there. So for those of you that are maybe older and working or going into work, we have a whole segment for you in next week's show. For those of you that are parents as well, as we mentioned, this is Programming for Primaries Week. And so we will be sharing tips as well, and practical tips. And there may be some stuff that you can access as well in terms of how can you get your children into code, even from an early age, like what does that look like? And how can we do these things practically? Because it's all well and good us having a conversation here, right? But we need to give you the tools to actually do that and facilitate that within your children. And also tips for parents as well. So you may not have younger children, but you may have children that are in sixth form, in secondary school.
Yeah.
Even if you have children in university as well, or you are in uni, we have got all of the tips and resources coming for you next week. So please do join us. But today we have just done a little intro.
It's a taster.
A taster.
Taster.
We can't give it all. We can't give it all for free.
We can't. Buy the course.
No, seriously. By the course.
And so that is all we have time for today. But we have looked at the many different ways that tech has been introduced into our lives over the many, many years, even dating back. Can you imagine what building, like, like when you when you hear about the tabernacle and stuff in the Bible, and you just think like, how did they build
there was
these
tech.
things?
Calculations,
There was tech.
everything.
Like there was tech.
Tower of Babylon, there was tech. Noah's Ark, there was
Even
tech. I didn't know we were going to preaching dimension, but there was tech there. I relax.
There was tech, like the ark. Can you imagine?
Listen.
Everyone's telling Noah, what are you doing? There's no rain.
Noah's like, I'm teching.
I'm taking it out like
for the kingdom.
And so we have looked at all the varieties as well, and the real life skills needed within tech. So many of you probably have transferable skills that can be used within the tech field as well, in and amongst the different roles that are necessary. But we will be going into all of that next week. So thank you so much. I have been your host, Dr. Leanne J, with my wonderful guests.
Chin so there.
And Glorious de Pisco.
Hey,
So thank you both so much for joining us in the studio.
It's been my
and
pleasure.
thank you all for your comments, for your interactions as well, because obviously we're in here in the studio talking, but this is a community, right?
Yeah.
This is a community, and Academic Crossroads is here to support and equip you on your academic journey so that you can finish with excellence. But the show would not be what it is without you. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back same time, same place next week here on Fire Radio. And don't forget,
yes, so unfortunately, I don't know how to explain this one, but UP isn't on tonight. But we're on tomorrow by the grace of God, right? So, same time, same place, not time, but same time, not same date, but same place. So tomorrow, around 7:00, be tuned, because stay tuned, because it's about to be something interesting happening, right? But once again, thanks, Doctor, for, giving us the opportunity to be on the show, speak about tech.
Honestly, it's
you're
been
amazing.
All right, brownie points.
Brownie points. You have to make it count, anywhere and everywhere. You have to make it count as well.
Thank you guys. But honestly, this is I think even just us having conversations as well has really opened my eyes to actually see that. Actually, even some of the skills and the things that I do very integrate into the tech world very well. Some of the projects I've worked on and stuff like that. So it's not so far from us as we think,
100%.
And even Rohan said that Jeff Bezos didn't code as well. And he's also mentioned tech sales, tech HR, tech operations.
Many roles.
So Ro, be prepared for next week.
Hey.
Yes.
Be prepared for next week and join us here on the show, because we will be getting into all of that.
Come on.
So thank you so much for joining us here on Academic Crossroads, and we will see you next week. And don't forget, Youth Beat is on tomorrow. What time, Chin?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. So back here on Fire Radio for 7 p.m. We will see you then.
This is Academic Crossroads. You have been listening to Academic Crossroads. Join us same time next week for more academic top tips with your host, Dr. Leanne J. Adeyemi. On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire burning in my soul. Fire, fire, fire. Fire burning in my soul. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere.